Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. This is our last topic for the morning. This is our last topic for the morning, and this is probably going to by far be our most personal topic. It's probably the topic that I know this topic could actually maybe evoke a little bit of tears. You may understand why as we go through this. We had originally called today's presentation 700 Days. But that topic got changed, and I'll explain to you how it changed in just a second. So here's our topic: 370, 990, 1,095, and 161 days. And notice, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, that there are no titles on our names up there. We all have jobs, we all have degrees, we all have lives. But when it comes to personal caregiving, doctorates and masters and bachelors and any title next to your name goes out the window, because when you start caregiving, titles just don't matter anymore. But I would like to point out one thing that I had to put on the screen, which I thought was important. This is Kelly to my stage right, and this is Sylvia, who is, the spirit of full disclosure, is my double third cousin once removed, and her brother Randy's with us. And I got to point out that Kelly here, whom I've known for years, along with her mom and dad in the front row, Kelly was a gold medalist presidential winner, which is a pretty darn big deal. In other words, she has a great deal of experience in caring and caregiving, and for that, I do believe she deserves a round of applause for being a gold medalist winner. So the way we got the title will become evident as we go through it. Now, the original 700 days, the person who was going to help me do this title, she was a caregiver for 700 days. But she called me and she said, "Buff, I just can't do this because I'm so nervous and I don't like speaking in front of people." But I tried to assure her that this is a friendly audience. So to prove the point to these two people right here, by show of hands, how many of you have been a caregiver or currently serving as a caregiver? This is a very friendly audience. So you're going to know exactly what we're going through and how this all started. Now, I'll also got to tell you that this is the first presentation that any of us have ever done at UGA, I think, which requires no textbook, nothing you could read on it. And the reason is because there is no textbook out there on caregiving. There is no manual on caregiving. It's just one thing that happens and you're in it, okay? So we three here and all of you in the room, we have firsthand, we have heartfelt, key phrase heartfelt, because it messes with your heart. Direct experiential knowledge. And guys, I got to tell you one thing that I'm very proud of before we go any further. It's going to come up. I took care of my mom for 370 days while I was teaching full-time at UGA. And since my chairman is in the room, allow me to say I never missed a class. And that's only because my mother so valued education that she would say, "I will sit in this chair for 4 hours and I will not move until you come back." Now, we're going to make the point. You know there's two inevitabilities. There's death and there's taxes. I would submit to you there are two more. I would submit to you that sometimes in your life, you're either going to be a caregiver or you're going to be a care receiver. It's going to happen to everybody in this room. And I'll also submit to you there are three simple truths. And I know Sylvia and Kelly and I were talking about this when we were rehearsing. Nobody ever plans to be a caregiver. Did you plan to be a caregiver? No. It just happens. Not everyone is cut out to be a caregiver. There are some people in this room that I know that no, you're not a good caregiver. And you probably won't ever learn how to do it. Not everybody's cut out to be a caregiver, and you don't beat yourself up for that. That's just fact. That's just truth. And I want to make this very, very clear. Men can be competent caregivers too. Although I got to tell you, I took care of Mama for 370 days, and I never, ever mastered rolling hair. I tried, I never mastered it. And I looked at my mother one day after I had rolled her hair, and my mother looked at me and she says, "I look like a painted floozy." Now, where my mama got that, I have absolutely no idea. Have you ever heard the term painted floozy in your whole life? Have you? You just do what you have to do. And that's my mama. And for those of you who didn't know my mother, she went by Miss Nadine, and her friends called her Deanie. And what you don't know about my mama is my mother was the chief cockpit engineer for the B-29 in World War II. So Mom was a very bright lady. What you also don't know about my mama is that this picture was taken while we were in Hawaii, because I do consulting in Hawaii, and if I was on the plane, she had to go to Hawaii, and she went with me to Hawaii on her 96th birthday. What you also need to know about my mom is she's holding a pina colada in her left hand. She was a joy to take care of. And when my mother got sick, there's only one way to describe this. It flat pissed her off. It made her mad that she was sick. Now, Sylvia had the pleasure of taking care of Ray. Ray was a joy. Sylvia, would you tell us, and you're going to need your microphone, dear. Okay, you're learning to use microphones. So would you tell us a little bit, about Ray, and would you tell us why you picked the younger picture? Do us about a minute or maybe 2 minutes.
Okay, this picture, of course, was made years ago when he was much younger, probably about the time he graduated from Griffin High School. Can you all hear?
You're doing fine.
Great. He was a track star in his junior and senior years. He ran in every road race he could find, the Peachtree Road Race and all those in surrounding communities. He walked, he ran, we hiked his entire life. And every morning at 5 o'clock, I would catch him at the Griffin Airport walking track for at least 5 miles until the third year into his diagnosis. He was diagnosed at age 77 with Parkinson, and he lived 5 years and died at 82.
And you took care of him for 990 days.
Oh, thereabouts. The first couple of years, he showed very few symptoms. His taste and smell was diminished. His handwriting was poor, but basically we carried on as usual. He loved gardening. The third year of his dementia, he only planted, with my help, 43 tomato plants. He loved to give them to everybody, and people are still missing his tomatoes.
And also, if you don't mind me interrupting you, Sylvia, but do tell them that he was a caregiver for his first wife.
Right. His first wife died at age 52 from multiple myeloma. They had 2 daughters. And by the way, his only grandchild is at UGA, the Athens campus, working on a doctorate in psychology.
Well done.
So he was so very proud of her. He was a self-taught Bible scholar. He taught Sunday school for about 40 years. And like I say, very few symptoms first several years.
And he never planned on getting sick, did he?
No. He was never, ever sick. Just, we ate right, we exercised, and it was just, this was devastating to him when he had to depend on someone else to care for him.
Key phrase, depend on someone else. Let me stop you there and let's go to, you took care of Joyce Kirkland. Tell us a little bit about Joyce.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Joyce Kirkland. Dr. Joyce Kirkland was a math teacher. She taught at Forest Park Senior High until she retired. Then she taught at Clayton State College, and she was not one of those people that told you every time she saw you that she had a doctorate. I didn't know she had a doctorate till real close to the end of her life. She was just Joyce Kirkland. But she was one of the most brilliant people I've ever known in my life. She was a true teacher. She taught everybody. She got a chance. She'd teach you something. But she didn't grab you by the arm and say, come over here, I'm going to teach you about this. It was just natural to her. But she had breast cancer at a young age and had a mastectomy. And she was cancer-free for quite a long time. And then she had a lump pop up on her chest wall right around Thanksgiving. And they removed that. They did radiation and chemotherapy. And she was cancer-free for quite a while. And then it was August, she started clearing her throat. And I'd say, what's going on? Do you feel bad? No, I'm all right. Well, when she told me that she had cancer, it was back. It had metastasized. She had 4 different kinds of cancer. She had throat cancer, liver cancer, lung cancer, and bone cancer. So it kind of went from there. But she was one of those people that didn't want to be taken care of. But when I started taking care of her, then she didn't want me to leave her.
And she was in a great deal of pain.
She was in a very lot of pain. Bone cancer is one of the hardest cancers there is to deal with because it's very painful.
And so what we're gonna do now is we 3 caregivers, and I still consider myself a caregiver. You do too, don't you? You do too, don't you? Because once you're a caregiver, you're always, it changes the way you see the world. And then we're gonna talk about, Vickie Cheek, who's a little bit special, and I'll tell you a little bit more about her just a little bit later. But before I go any further, if someone hand me a bottle of water, never say this to a caregiver. And people are going to come up to you and they're going to say, I know how you feel. And the answer is, they don't. Take it away a little bit.
When people come up to you and say, I know how you feel, one of the things it does is make you mad. Because you do not know how I feel. You've not been through what I've been through. You may have been through something similar, but you do not know how I feel.
Thank you.
And it's hard to deal with people that they want to say, I'm sorry for your loss and all those things, but they do not know how you feel. There's no way they can.
So don't ever say that to a caregiver.
No.
Because they're going to answer you, I'm fine. But they're
Yes.
not, okay? And one of the worst days that I remember is the day of the diagnosis. And when that diagnosis hits, you go into denial. It's like, I don't believe this is happening. And let me tell you, medical people and nurses, and I'm saying this, hands up, does not reflect the management staff of the University of Georgia, okay? They suck when it comes to telling you about diagnoses. They just flat don't know how to do it. And I tell all my students that I teach here, you're going to go to med school, they're going to teach a lot of compassion out of you. But they're caregivers, but they're not caregivers. They're more caretakers, okay? And you go through, how am I going to handle this? How am I going to do this? Am I going to continue doing this? You remember that one? I remember I was talking to you once after you've been taking care of Ray, and you said to me, I'm exhausted. How do I keep doing this? And then every day you go, is this how it's going to end? And how does it end? And you go, and then all of a sudden you're minding your own business and you go, how do I pay for this? We're going to talk about someone a little bit later who paid $460,000 keeping his wife on a ventilator. How do you pay for that? And then one day you're minding your own business and it's, okay, I can do this. You remember that day? You remember that I can do this? Yeah. And then about 1,000 more racing thoughts hit your head.
The day of diagnosis was
Microphone.
The day of diagnosis was not difficult because the neurologist said it took them forever to formally diagnose him because he was in great health. And the doctor said, we think you have a form of Parkinson, but I don't think it will ever be anything really serious. And it wasn't for a couple of years, and then that all changed. The doctor was not correct.
Did you ever feel sorry for yourself?
I just felt very, very tired and exhausted, and people wanted to help, but not many would just volunteer and do things. They'd say, what can I do to help you, instead of just being there. You're so busy, you really don't have time to feel sorry for yourself.
Did you ever feel abandoned?
I don't know if it was as much abandoned as it was isolated. It's abandonment, I guess, is, I don't know how to explain it.
Do you feel lost? Do you feel?
Yeah, the people will say, what can I do? and hope you don't tell them what they can do.
That's true. That's true.
There are
That's
the
very true.
ones that there are the ones out there that say, "What can I do to help?" and they mean it.
And most of them.
And most of them do. But then there are the ones that say, "Well, what can I do to help you?" and they hope you don't tell them something you need. And you know the difference.
The worst was meal times.
Yes.
I mean, the worst is meal times, because they mark, at least in my experience, they mark their existence by meals. Thank God, I say this as loving as I know how, that my mother lost her appetite, because I am a lousy cook. And thank God she couldn't taste what I was putting in front of her, but it was nutritious. But I'd finish lunch, and then 30 minutes later, the mother would go, "What are we doing for dinner?" And then, and then you just dread meal times, and you're so tired, you're just exhausted, you're numb. And then when you go out in the real world, you have to fake it, because with all due respect to everybody in this room, other people don't want to hear your problems. I had to say to my mother one day, I went, "Mother, people don't think about you as much as you think they think about you. But you want them to think about you in caregiving, but they don't." And you feel like a single parent, I don't know if that's the right word, but you feel alone. You feel like a parent taking care of someone who really doesn't want to be taken care of, but reconcile that they have to be taken care of. And you're too tired to cry. But then you're minding your own business, and somebody will say the right thing at the right time, and you're just in tears. And you go, "Pardon me." And don't even think about sleeping. You may think you have a new baby in the house. Dakota has a new kid. God bless him, the kid had to learn how to sleep. But you don't sleep. Why don't you talk about the sleeping aspect?
What you do is you learn how to doze. And it's sort of like having a new baby in the house, but that baby's not ill. When you've got somebody that's very ill, you hear every noise they make.
Oh boy, do you.
So you do not actually sleep. And you have to learn how to sleep once it's all over. You can't, your body has conditioned itself to go into that state where you hear every little pin drop. And then after it's all over, you have to learn how to sleep again. And it took me about 6 months to learn how to sleep again.
Yeah, I haven't learned that yet.
It takes a while.
I was at the point where if Mother heard me up, she'd want to get up. So I'd wake up about an hour before she did, shower in the dark, shave in the dark. Don't know how I did it, but I did. Clean up in the dark, because the minute I turned on the lights, they wanted up. And you learn to do everything in the dark. So to this day, I still get up at 4:30 in the morning. I can't break it. How about your sleep? How is your sleep, Sylvia? We were talking about this.
Ray suffered from, when you have Parkinson, everybody has different symptoms. He was short of breath, but yet every lung test he passed with flying colors. He had gut issues. So he, many months, every 2 to 3 hours he would have to eat to try to solve the nausea problem. He never threw up, but he was just nauseous. So you just plan on that. You get up. It is like having a baby who never grows up, because you're having to feed them constantly. And so you really look back and say, how did I survive that many months without sleep?
And you're feeding them, and they're withering away.
Yes, they're losing weight. Of course, with him, he could not taste that much, but he ate to try to prevent the nausea. So I said, well, I can just fix any old slop and you will eat it. So it really didn't have to be good.
I mean, I've got it here in red. This is not an exaggeration. You're constantly jumping, sitting, lifting, cleaning, changing sheets, washing, sanitizing, whatever. And then you feed them, and you slop everything with syrup and butter, hoping they'll eat it. Then in my case, they wouldn't eat it, and I was too cheap to throw it away, so I ate it. And then I gained 30 pounds. which, by the way, I have lost. But the bottom line is, and then you welcome to medicine's revolving door. I don't even know where to begin with that. I hate to say that I've lost faith in the medical system, but I have. And here I am teaching all these fine students to be physicians and caregivers and care providers. Modern medicine's got to improve. I mean, it's just that the cost, the level of care, something has got to change. I want to tell you one thing Mother said. She went to her oncologist, who was a good fella, decent oncologist, as oncologists go, decent fella. He was like seeing one patient, seen them all, but decent. And he said to my mother, he said, okay, I need to get you involved with your cardiologist, and I need to get you involved with the kidney specialist, and then I need to get you involved with this and that. And my mother just looked at him politely and just as kindly as she could. She went, no. And the physician said to her, well, Miss Buffington, it's important that we get this care. And Mother just looked at him and said, no. And he said, well, Miss Buffington, I don't understand. And my mother looked at him with a straight face. I'll never forget this, because Mom was a pip. And she said, I have no desire to enter medicine's revolving door. And then he tried, and the stupid man, I say that as loving as I know how, tried to negotiate with her. Okay? You don't negotiate with my mother, but secondly, you don't negotiate with someone like this. You give them the facts, and if they've got the presence of mind, you want them to use those facts. So medicine is not, I didn't find modern medicine facilitative, I may have made up a word there, to health care. It's like they go, and some of Mother, and I thought, okay, some of Mother's medicines is $15,000 a pop. Okay, can't you be just a tad? I mean, even at the Ritz-Carlton, they say my pleasure, and at Chick-fil-A too. Can't you at least be nice? And then you're running on empty. Why don't you talk about running on empty? Because you know exactly what I mean by running on empty.
Well, when you run on empty, you're kind of, you've reached a point where nothing really helps. You know, you're tired. You're mentally tired, physically tired, and then, you know, it's, I guess the best way to put it is you just need a break from all of it.
And you feel guilty when you take it.
And you do. You feel guilty when you feel like you need that break from all of it. And it's just one of those things, you have to have a break. And it's nice if you've got somebody that can come and sit with them while you take a few minutes for yourself. But then you feel guilt. You feel like when you do take those few minutes, you feel like you've got to get back. And it's a hard thing to deal with.
I see you empathizing with this. You felt the same way? You're doing great.
Yes, you reach a point where their cognitive decline is evident. But then you realize you are slipping, lack of sleep, not knowing what to do. You've tried every doctor, every medicine, every herbal remedy you can think of, and nothing works. And my daughter said, I can't believe some of the stupid things you did, Mother. And I said, I was that bad? Yes, you have a mental decline yourself. And you just reach the point, how much longer can I go without sleep and function? But with God's grace, I got through it.
Indeed. I want to talk about the importance of touch. Okay? You can forget anything politically correct whatsoever at this topic. You touch people. I mean, it's just that simple. And it's very, very, very important to touch them, to hold their hand, to talk to them, to be there with them. Ray still responded to touch, didn't he?
Yes.
All the way up to the point. Joyce did too.
Yes.
My mother particularly. Closeness is essential. It's all first name basis. There's no titles. And everything you say to them is, let me get this for you, dear. Let me get this for you, sweetie. Let me get this for you, honey. I mean, you run out of honey, sweetie, preciouses, loves, whatever when you're doing this. And it never stops. When you become a caregiver, you still do it. Like I told you guys earlier this morning, I have this Olympic swimmer in my Athens psychopharmacology class. Brilliant student, big burly boy. And he said something to me the other day in class. And I went, let me answer that for you, sweetie. And I had to stop and go, kid, not hitting on you. please don't send me to diversity training again. That was a joke there. I haven't been the first time, but I'm always perilously close. And I had to explain this, so I just stopped my lecture, took 3 minutes and said, once a caregiver, always a caregiver. And I don't plan on changing. I'm sorry. I told a student the other day, if you don't like this, deal and grow. I just don't plan on changing. The importance of touch is incredible in this. And I have found myself touching more than I ever have before. And who knows, if I get in trouble for this, I'll explain I'm a caregiver, not trying to be unkind. But I have learned with caregiving that the importance of touch is more important than I ever realized. And one day, you'll snap. You remember the day, don't you? Watch this. How many of you in this room remember the day you snapped? You're not by yourself, kid. I got Kleenex right here. One day, you'll snap. Every night before I go to bed, I walk in my mother's room and I say 3 things. I say, Mama, you were never a burden. Please forgive me for those days I snapped. And I'd do it all again, and you are so very welcome. Remember the day you snapped?
Yep.
I'll hand you the tissue.
Oh, I've got one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sylvia said even she snapped, and Sylvia's just as, I mean, we're sweet. But Sylvia's milk and honey.
The day I snapped, I guess I had, maybe 2 hours sleep. And he would move from the bed to the couch to the chair. And then I would move trying to, get some sleep. And he would follow me everywhere. And I looked at him and I said, if you follow me one more time, I'm going to call the cops and tell them you're harassing me.
And then, don't be surprised if and when they ask you the following question. Did everybody hear me? You want to take this one?
Yes, Ray had been so healthy, and he was so apologetic. He was constantly saying, I'm so sorry that you have to take care of me. I am so sick. I do not want to live this way. And if you hadn't hidden the guns, you know what I would do. Or maybe you would help me do it. And I would just change the subject and make sure the guns were hidden, because I would catch him rambling through the house. But it was extremely discouraging to him that he had to be dependent on someone because he had been so healthy his entire life.
Because modesty goes out the window.
Oh, yeah.
Modesty goes out the window.
Yeah, they have no modesty anymore.
There is no more modesty. Whether you're male or female, there is no modesty. And that's, you have to learn how to do. You want to talk briefly about Joyce on this one before we go to the next one?
Yeah, Joyce asked me to help her end her life. By the time she did, she told me before, when she sat me down and talked to me when the diagnosis was made, told me what all she wanted me to do. I had her durable power of attorney. She told me everything she wanted, how she wanted her funeral arrangements done and everything. And she told me at that point that she had saved painkillers and showed me where they were, and the bottle was full to the brim. And she told me that if things got really bad, she would end her life. And she was in a facility at this point and asked me if I would help her end her life. Would I go to the house and get that bottle of painkillers and let her end her life? And I told her at that point I would, consider it if she was at home, but with her being in the facility, that they would arrest me. But it was a sobering time.
Indeed it is. And then, I got him, Sarah. And then there's the talk. I am so proud of myself for a lot of things I've done in this lifetime, but I'm proudest of myself that I had the presence of mind to take that picture. That is my hand and my mother's hand. And the talk I rehearsed, and I rehearsed, and I rehearsed. And she had rallied, which means I knew she was about to pass. And I sat down on the side of the bed, and I said, Mother, we need to talk. And that was code for, listen, let's talk. I said, Mother, you are grievously ill. You are gravely ill. And I said, Mother, if you want to fight it, I will fight it with you as long as you want to fight it. I said, now I'm going to go home, and I'm going to get your bed ready. I'm going to come pick you up tomorrow morning, and I'm going to take you home, and we're going to fight this as long as you want to fight it. Hardest words I've ever said in my life about to come out of my mouth. And then I said, but Mother, if you want to pass, know that you are loved. And then I said the most important words of all, I will miss you, but I will be okay. A lot of people don't want people around them when they die. Mother did not. Mother did not want to pass at home. She wanted to pass in the hospital, and Mother did not want me to see her pass. You had to have the talk as well?
Yes. I
You did too?
it was very near the end, and she was hanging on. And I leaned over and kissed her on the forehead and told her, I said, it's time. Feel free. It's okay to go. And I will be all right. And she was just the opposite of his mother. She did not want me to leave her. And I held her hand and sat there when she took her last breath. But I feel like, y'all have to excuse me, I feel like she needed for me to tell her it was time,
Yes.
and it was okay to go.
They have to hear that.
They do.
They have to hear it. And guys, you got to learn how to do it. Okay? Guys, you have to learn how to do it. This is not a woman thing. I'm not trying to be sexist, rude, salacious, lascivious, vulgar, or untoward. This is a human thing. And this is one time when you forget the man, the female, you do what you have to do when it comes to caregiving. And when they pass, you go to a horribly lonely place. And when they pass, you have totally different racing thoughts. And I'm not talking easy thoughts, I'm talking racing thoughts. I could have done it better. I still think I could have done it better. Have I failed? I feel so guilty. Boy, did I still do. And I wish I'd done this while they're still alive. And then you go, and I don't know what to do now. But I will tell you what my mother always said to me, and we will take great solace in this. I've heard her say this 100 times. Life goes on. You have no choice. So the whole point of this, what we've done today and what we've tried to do for you guys, is once a caregiver, always a caregiver. And thank your Maker for that. It will give you especially if you're one of these big camouflage men, it will give you a richness of emotion that you've never experienced in your whole entire life. And when you look at your mother or your father and say, I will miss you, you will be loved, but I will be okay, you are basically thanking them for everything that they have done for you. It's a gift from God to be able to have that talk. So guys, this is where we end this presentation. Caregiving is a life-changing event. You will never be the same again, but watch the next slide. You are much better for it. Do you feel better for it? You would do it again, wouldn't you?
Oh, in a heartbeat.
You would do it again.
Heartbeat.
And I would give everything I own for one more minute.
Oh, I would tell him how much I loved him and how much I appreciated him and what I learned from him. And he didn't set out to teach me anything, but he was so knowledgeable, and I learned so much for him. And when he taught Sunday school, one of his favorite sayings was, your influence will never die. And so my wish is that his influence will continue for many years to come.
Sylvia, that's lovely. Concluding remarks?
When you remember somebody, they don't ever die. Memories are the things you cling to when things get bad. And after it's all over, your memories are what you have. So make good memories while you can. Even though you're a caregiver and you're there with them, try to remember and to make those memories, speak with them, learn from them while they're here. Because when they're gone, those are the things that you cling to.
We three agree. I'm going to speak for both of you. We three agree that we are better people. I'm a far better person, emotionally, everything now than I was a year and 3 months ago. Being a caregiver will change your life. I hope it for every one of you. I really do. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take, if you'll bear with us just a second, kindly comport yourselves, pull yourselves together. We have a special announcement, okay? So we are going to take just 2 seconds. If you folks will come in and strike the set, please stand by for a very special announcement. If you'll strike the set, if you'll pass around the box of tissue. Thank you, Matthew.
And if you want to sit wherever, that's yours. Okay.
All right, and thank you. If Ali Elliman will join me. Ali, if you'll stand right here. If Dr. Dean, if you will stand next to him, please. This is going to be for you. Oh, is this for me as well? No, this is going to be for you. Okay, and then you'll pass it, Jeff. Dr. Goody, if you'll join us right here, just gently right behind him. And if Dr. Pridemore, if you'll stand as well, just in between those two. And Dr. Peach, if you'll join them over there. Okay. Are we all set? Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to make a really big announcement. Let me get myself together here. Let me comport myself. Let me make me look pretty. Feel like I'm back in TV. If you will, videographer, by the way, if you'll tell me when you are at speed. We are at speed. Okay. 5, 4, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the University of Georgia Griffin campus. Everyone is here at the IDEA Symposium on April 19th, 2024. And we are absolutely delighted to share with a room full of wonderful people who have all been caregivers, are wanting to know more and more and more about caregivers. We are very excited to share with you something very special that's going to be specific to this University of Georgia campus. And to that point, allow me to introduce you to Bill Cheek, better known as William Cheek. And as you can tell from this picture, he's kind of like a big dog fan. In case you can't figure out, I'm the little guy on the left, okay? And you can see this other big dude on the right who is Dr. Dean. And then you can see the dog in the middle, so you can tell what a big dog is. And that's Bill Cheek. And so what I want to do is I want to tell you about Vickie Mallory Cheek. And as we just said in our previous presentation, when you say a person's name, you give them life. And Vickie Mallory Cheek is one of the most wonderful people I've ever met in my life. And in the whole spirit of this, allow me to tell you that I dated her for a while. Now granted, this was 50 some odd years ago, okay? And she and I went to the opera all the time. And then she met Bill Cheek, who took her to football games, and Bill Cheek married her. So in this regard, it was Bill Cheek who won, and dogs won, and the opera lost. But anyway, Vickie was a wonderful person. And she had a horrible accident where she stumbled and where she fell, and she was in a coma. Not in a coma as much. She was on a ventilator for 161 days, and Bill Cheek took care of her. Well, Bill Cheek is a dog, and Vickie Mallory Cheek is a dog, and some of you may remember Vickie. Vickie was from Griffin. For those of you who remember Jim and Joe's, she worked at Jim and Joe's, the photographic shop. And for those of you who remember old Parkwood Cinema, she worked at Parkwood Cinema. So the University of Georgia is pleased to announce, and I'm going to step over and take my place right here. The University of Georgia is pleased to announce what we're going to call the Vickie Scholarship. And the Vickie Scholarship is in honor of Vickie Mallory Cheek. And if I may have the present, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to announce a scholarship specific for Franklin College majors on the University of Georgia campus in honor of Vickie Cheek. It will pay $1,000 every year. And with that, I pass it on to Ali. I'll help you hold it while you do the microphone, who is head of the foundation, who's going to tell you all that the foundation does.
Not head of the foundation, but...
You got promoted. I'll take it.
I work with Franklin College at the foundation and work with donors all across the state doing amazing things like this. And I had the honor of getting to meet Bill and attend this conference. And I can just say that, you know, on behalf of the foundation, that we're grateful for the opportunity to be able to facilitate something like this, to be able to promote this career field and profession amongst our students, especially on our Griffin campus. And this has just been a great opportunity and honor for the university to help Bill achieve this goal and to do this for all of you.
And Dr. Dean, will you accept on behalf of the campus?
I absolutely will. I have a great passion for endowed scholarships. I've actually endowed a couple in my years, and I tell people it's probably one of the most powerful gifts that you can give, and particularly as a memorial to somebody who was important in your life. And so I can't thank Mr. Cheek enough for what he's done to help our students, many of whom you met this morning, and I know you were as impressed as I was with them, be able to go on and achieve in their careers, take on their role as caregivers, and one day be taking care of you, quite honestly. So this investment is going to help so many people, and I'm proud to accept it on behalf of UGA's Griffin campus.
So on that note, Bill Cheek, you got the girl and you done good. That simple. And I'm glad I knew Vickie, and I'm a better person for having met and dated Vickie and for knowing you. And on behalf of the faculty of the University of Georgia Franklin College, thank you, thank you, thank you. Because our students will be able to take advantage of this starting this fall. And it's earmarked for the University of Georgia Griffin campus, specifically Franklin College majors who are planning on entering the helping professions, including medicine. And on that regard, Bill, I thank you so much. It's a pleasure to know you. And one other thing, Bill, you are welcome on the University of Georgia campus anytime you want to visit. Would you please thank him with a rousing round of applause? And on that, we go to black. Thank you so much.